battle for the so-called Sun Belt is heating up. Welcome into Talking Points. I'm Luke Radel.
And I'm Jake Morel. As Donald Trump heads to Georgia tomorrow and North Carolina on Wednesday, new polling from the New York Times shows him in the lead in those swing states. Our Alex Burstein joins us now with those important numbers. Alex, good evening.
Yeah, Luke, Jake, I think if we each got $1 for every new poll that's come out this weekend, we'd be able to retire by the end of this week. There's a ton of new numbers, and over the weekend, they were primarily pro-Kamala Harris, a 52-48 win in the CBS poll. And if you go to the battleground states that are going to decide this election, that's a 51-49 lead for the current vice president. But what really matters is looking at the individual states. And as you mentioned, the real important ones right now are those Sun Belt states that willed President Joe Biden to victory back in 2020. Biden had victories in Arizona and Georgia, a narrow loss in North Carolina, but new New York Times polling today has Trump in the lead in all three of those states. 5 points in Arizona, 4 points in Georgia, and a narrow 2-point lead in North Carolina. Why is that important? You look at that 220 number for the former president right now. If he's able to win all three of those, that goes all the way up to 263. You need 270 to win the election. So how does he get there? You look at these northern battleground states. These are states that are currently with the current vice president Kamala Harris in the lead, but if Trump is able to win either Michigan, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania, he's able to get over that 270 mark and become the new president of the United States. There are some interesting notes in this new poll, and first and foremost, we're going to look at those Senate races in the Grand Canyon state of Arizona. We mentioned that 5-point lead for the former president Donald Trump, but the Democratic nominee Ruben Gallego actually has the lead, 49-43. So some split ballots in Arizona, and that's what we're seeing here. Very interesting numbers from the New York Times here today.
Really interesting to see that split between how the Senate candidate is doing for the Republicans, Kari Lake, not so well, as opposed to what Donald Trump is doing. She's running pretty far behind him right now in that crucial battleground state of Arizona, Jake.
Yeah, absolutely. And Vice President Harris heads to Arizona later this week to campaign. CNN now reporting tonight that her campaign is considering a visit to the border. Was there any good news for Harris out of these polls over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, the really good news is we're seeing that voters are starting to think that she can actually make change. And that's something that was not the case a couple of weeks ago. It seemed like she was just going to be the continuation of the current president, Joe Biden. But that's changed. You see the poll here, 47-38. That's a lead that Harris has right now in an NBC poll of her being able to create change. And it's because she's just been painting herself as a new candidate. She has very high favorability numbers, some of the highest we've seen for a presidential candidate since all the way back with 9/11 and George Bush. So these are big swings, and we're also seeing her media strategy kind of pay off. She has been avoiding those hard news interviews, instead doing more lighthearted interviews like this one earlier this week on Oprah Winfrey Show.
I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun.
I did not know that.
If somebody breaks in my house, they're getting shot.
Yes, I hear that. I hear that.
Probably should not have said that.
But
my staff will deal with that later.
Yeah.
So you see there a very lighthearted Kamala Harris on the airwaves, and that's what voters like to see. They want a president that they can relate to, and that's what's been really helping her in these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I'm sure as journalists, we'd like to see her do more interviews, but it seems like she's able to reach voters, particularly female voters, by going on with Oprah. Thank you very much, Alex. Appreciate you very much.